الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فهو المهتد ومن يضلل
Have we started
فلا
recording?
هادي له واشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له واشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله صلى الله عليه وعلى أهله ومن تبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين. أما بعد، يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون. يا أيها الذين آمنوا يا أيها الناس اتقوا ربكم الذي خلقكم من نفس واحدة وخلق منها زوجها وبث منهما رجالا كثيرا ونساء واتقوا الله الذي تساءلون به والأرحام إن الله كان عليكم رقيبا. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وقولوا قولا سديدا يصلح لكم أعمالكم ويغفر لكم ذنوبكم ومن يطع الله ورسوله فقد فاز فوزا عظيما. We give praise and thanks to Almighty Allah. We ask Him to shower His blessing upon the noblest of mankind, Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, members of his household, his companions, and all those who have stood, are standing, and will come to stand on this path of Sirat al-Mustaqim. Alhamdulillah, we have not ceased to be taking the book Az-zakaat fi-l-Islaam fi-Dh-Dhawi-l-Kitaab was-Sunnah. Az-zakaat fi-l-Islaam fi-Dh-Dhawi-l-Kitaab was-Sunnah by Sheikh الدكتور سعيد ibn Ali ibn Wahf ibn Muhammad Al-Qahtaani, who died on the 12th of Muharram 1440. That's Tuesday, the 1st of October 2018. He authored quite a number of books, and about the most popular to general populace is Hisnu-l-Muslim, the book of Az-zakaat, rahimahullah. We have taken the topic of zakah on quite a number of things that are zakatable, and we have gotten to the parts towards the lower end, the tail end of the book, that addresses zakah of urud at-tijara, the zakah of urud at-tijara, or trade goods, the zakah on trade goods, anything that we trade in. So for the benefit of those who are joining the class for the first time, and also for the benefit of those who have been in class and will want to some things reiterated, we'll spend some time of the class in revising what we are taking before, and we'll add on to it if Allah wills. So we'll start bi'idhnillah. The Sheikh rahimahullah says, Al-Mabhath Al-Hadi Ashar, the 15th section, Zakatu Urudi At-Tijara, the zakah to be paid on urud at-tijara, trade goods. Awalan, first and foremost, the Shaykh rahimahullah says, Mafhum urud at-tijara lughatan wa istilahan. We need to know, have the understanding of what urud at-tijara is linguistically, lughatan, wa istilahan, and technically. Oftentimes, the scholars, when they are introducing the topics, they tell us what the linguistic meaning of the word is, because sometimes that is what the Sharia is referring to. And sometimes, and they also give us the linguistic meaning, because sometimes that is what the Sharia is referring to. And sometimes the Sharia refers to both, so that we know, and we also know the context wherein the Sharia is referring to. Yes, I believe we have started recording. Barakallahu fikum. Let me just cross-check again to be sure about that. Yes, we have started recording. Barakallahu fikum. So the the scholars will tell us the linguistic meaning, and sometimes the Sharia it refers to both the linguistic and the technical meaning. So the context will let us know, and the scholars will guide us to when the context wants us to understand it this way or that way. Now, so it says, what is the understanding of the, so for an example of that is wudu or dua. Dua is in the language calling, or is to call someone, whereas technically it is a supplication to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Also, salah is another example. Linguistically, it means the same thing as dua. However, salah is a specific, technically has two meanings technically. One meaning is that it is a series of activities that start with niyyah and takbirat al-ihram, ruku' and all that are parts of it. So it's a specific ibadah that is dedicated to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Salah could also mean the remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the prayers of the angels upon someone, like when you say sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, wa salli alayhim, and things like that. Now, so we'll go to the linguistic meaning of urud. We are treating the zakah of urud at-tijar. So al-urud is jam'u ard, is the plural of ard. Ard, ain, ra, and dad. Ard. Bifath, and that is the ain has a fatha, the ra has a sukun, and the dad has a dhamma. So ard is the singular, urud is the plural. So it is khilafu al-naqd min al-mal. Whatever one owns of property that is other than currency, dirhams and dinar. Dirham is silver coins, silver currencies, and dinar are gold currencies. So anything that one owns that is other than currency is called ard. It's called ard. الأمتعة التي يدخل لا يدخل فيها الكيل والوزن ولا يكون. Let's skip this. This is one of the scholarly interpretation definitions of what urud is, but it's not as concise as the previous one, which is khilaf al-naqd min al-mal. Anything other than other than currency. Let us move on. So it is different from arad. Ard is different from arad. The difference is ra in arad has a fatha, and the plural, and that is the plural of a'rad. Arad is everything that is property. Everything of adornments of the world is arad. Al-arad. That is the plural of arad. But the one that concerns us is ard. Urud is the plural of ard, the one that concerns us. Now, istilahan, technically, urud huwa ma u'idda lil bay' wa shira' li ajli rubh. It is anything that is exhibited, that is made available. Let us let us break this down first. Al-urud is anything that one owns other than currency. Even so, even in the technical meaning. But when now say when one so that urud is now split into two. Is now split into two. Urud al-Qinya, and urud at-Tijara. Urud al-Qinya is personal effects, property that you use not intending trade, property that you own not intending to trade in them. Then this is urud al-Qinya. Urud al-Qinya. Iqtana is to take possession of something. So when you take possession of something, it is and you use for personal use, it is called urud, plural, urud al-Qinya. Ard al-Qinya is the singular. Now the second one is urud at-Tijara. We all know what Tijara is, trade. So any property other than currency that you own and you don't use it for personal effects, you are using it for trade, then this is urud at-Tijara. And this is what this definition goes along with. هو ما أعد للبيع والشراء لأجل الربح. It is what urud at-Tijara is what we possess and we dedicate to trading, buying, to selling and buying for the purpose of generating profit. So therefore, it knocks out what we own, but we don't use that personal effect despite owning it. Rather, we use it for charity, in the sense that we are trading in it also. Actually, we own it, we are trading in it, is for tijara, but that tijara is for a charitable purpose. For instance, one owns certain goods and one is asking people to pay for it below the cost price that one even bought it. So they won't find it cheaper or even at the same cost anywhere, because one is offering it below the cost price or at the cost price. When if someone wants to buy, in large quantities at the wholesalers, that is the price that he will get it from someone, from this person who is offering it this way at retail. He's getting it at retail at the cost that he will have gotten it at wholesale, which is the price that the person doing this type of business bought it. So this is a business that is not set up for profit. It's a non-profit business. It doesn't fall under the purview of urud at-Tijara because something is missing from it, and that is rubh, profit. One may have the intention for profit, but may incur loss. That is not, exempted from urud at-Tijara. That is the nature of business. You want to make profit. Sometimes you make more than you intended. Sometimes you make exactly what you intended. Sometimes you make a loss below, you make a profit less than you intended. Sometimes you just get your money back. Sometimes you make less than you invested. You make a loss. So this is the nature of business. But what was your intention is what the Sharia looks at. If your intention was to make profit, you own the property and you're using it for tijara, for trade, then it is urud at-Tijara. Now, so this concerns all of us in one way or the other, because there are certain properties that we own that we intend to sell them at some point in time. You may buy a car, and at the point in time when you bought it, you don't intend to sell it. However, at the back of your mind, at that point in time, you are like, if something happens that I don't expect, or that I even expect, I may sell it. Maybe if the car has an accident, I may sell it, something like that. That is not the intention for trade. You intended to use it when you bought it. But at the time of buying, if you bought it that I will use it for 3 years, after 3 years, I will sell it, inshallah, then it's a different intention from the first one. This second intention is that you bought it for trade, but you want to use it for 3 years prior to engaging in that trade. So it is ard at-tijara. So we need to check our possessions and the intentions that we had at the point of buying these, things. Not only at the point of buying, but also one may change one's intention from time to time. One may have bought it for personal use, but on a particular day, perhaps one now sees that people are now interested in buying this particular, item that I have as a personal effect. Okay, I am going to sell it, but I'll wait maybe 1 year when the price goes higher enough, then I'll sell it at that point in time. At the point in time when you've made that change of intention, that property has become ard at-tijara. It has become ard at-tijara, and the laws governing zakat on urud at-tijara will begin to apply on it, i.e., you begin to count one howl from that time. If that property reaches the nisab. If it doesn't reach the nisab, then part of the shurut that we have learned is missing. So if all the shurut are present in that ard al-tijara that we now want to, we're changing our intention that we're going to now sell in a year's time. So we begin to count one howl. That is one lunar calendar, a howl, one lunar calendar from that point in time, targeting when it will be time for us to pay zakah. Now, at-tijara is the next thing. We've talked about urud at-tijara. At-tijara is bay wa shira bin ajl rubh. It's buying and selling for the purpose of making a profit. في جميع أصناف المال إلا نقدين. In all types of property, tijara in all is buying and selling in order to make profit in all types of property. The Sheikh rahimahullah says here that illa naqdain, except in the naqdain. However, tijara, goes to include this naqdain actually, because if someone opens a money exchange and he trades in currencies, so his currency in this case is not stored. It is something that he trades in. So it becomes urud tijara also, these currencies that he, trades in. So anything can become urud tijara if it is being traded in. But if your currency is not traded, you're not trading in your currency, you open a store, you're selling different things, urud tijara. The money that you make from them and you use to buy new things, and you sell those new things and get money back, and you continue this, endless cycle, but you don't trade in the money itself, then that money itself is not part of urud tijara. If that is the case, and Allahu A'lam, that is what the Sheikh rahimahullah is intending here, then that money, the naqdain, that naqd, that currency is not part of urud tijara. But if you are engaged in trading in currency, and some of us do that, we trade between local currency and currency back home and all that. That's currency in that case becomes urud tijara. Those currencies in that case that becomes urud tijara. Now, ثانيا زكاة عروض التجارة واجب بعموم الكتاب والسنة والآثار والإجماع عامة أهل العلم والقياس. The Sheikh rahimahullah, Sheikh Sa'id Al-Qahtaani, says paying zakah on urud al-tijara is compulsory, wajiba. What does wajib mean? It means something that if we do, we'll get rewarded by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for doing it. If we abstain from doing it, then we get punished. Some of the scholars say, rather than saying get punished, we say we fall under the threat of punishment, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can forgive once it is not shirk. Now, so it says zakah on urud al-tijara is wajiba bi umum al-kitab, as evidenced by the kitab, Qur'an, was-Sunnah, the hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and the athar, statements of the companions of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, wal-ijma', and the consensus amati ahli al-ilm, of the scholars of Islam. wal-qiyas, and also by analogy. Al-Kitab. So from here, we'll go to what we took last week, because if you follow it, if you follow the Sheikh's book, Rahmatullah, it's on quite voluminous, but the article that we looked at last week from Islam Q&A, it condenses everything into a few pages. So we'll go to that inshallah. Now, so we'll share that now. The question that was asked is adilatu ala wujub az-zakah fi urud al-tijara. What are the evidences that establish that it is compulsory to pay zakah on urud al-tijara? That is the heading. The question is here. It says, Ma hiya adilatu ala wujub az-zakah fi urud al-tijara. What are the evidences for to establish that it is compulsory to pay zakah on urud al-tijara? لأني سمعت أن هناك من العلماء من أنكر وجوب الزكاة فيها. That because I heard that some of the scholars of the tests that one should make zakah compulsory on urud al-tijara. So this question speaks to what we informed us last week, that there is ijma' of the scholars with respect to urud al-tijara. However, after this ijma' was established, some of the scholars, notably Ibn Azm al-Andalusi and other scholars, Dawood al-Zahiri before him, and amongst the later scholars, people like Sheikh al-Albani, are of the opinion that there's no zakah, there's no evidence to establish zakah on urud al-tijara. We'll say it later on, but let's say it here again, that one of the principles of Ahl-Sunnah wa Jama'ah is that when an ijma' has been established, then difference of opinion of some scholars of Ahl-Sunnah wa Jama'ah that come after that do not hurt the ijma'. There's ijma' on something, there's consensus of the scholars, the early scholars on something. When later scholars come and they hold a different opinion, then their difference of opinion does not hurt that ijma. That ijma continues to stay, and the position of the later scholars becomes shav, becomes a strange position that we will not stick with. Rather, we'll stick with the ijma. Now, so what's the answer to the question here? Let's say Alhamdulillah. ذهب جماهير العلماء, says the vast majority of the ulamas, منهم أئمة الأربعة, from amongst them are the four popular imams. They're not the only imams, they are innumerable imams, but for the laymen, they know four. That is Abu Hanifa, Ash-Shafi'i, Malik, and Ahmad bin Hanbal. Their school of thoughts are very popular. Also popular because they have a lot of students, and they also interact a lot with the lay man. They're scholars that are more of heavier weights than them, but and that they are students of, and all that. Now, ومنهم الأئمة الأربعة أبو حنيفة ومالك والشافعي وأحمد رحمهم الله إلى وجوب الزكاة في عروض التجارة. So these four scholars, amongst others, a vast majority of the scholars are of the opinion that it is compulsory to pay zakah on urud al-tijara. قد استدلوا على ذلك بأدلة كثيرة. They rely on several evidences to arrive at this position of theirs. من الكتاب والسنة وأقوال الصحابة. And this comes from the Qur'an, the Hadith, and the Sahaba. So the use of the term Jamahir al-Ulama here, rather than saying ijma', is to point to what we just explained, that there are a few scholars who hold a contrary view. Now, we don't follow, after looking at the evidences last week, we said we stick with the position of the ijma'. We are not sticking with the position of the ijma' because of the quantity, but rather because it is ijma'. Sometimes the vast majority may hold a position that is not a position of ijma, and that the evidence is with the minority who hold a contrary opinion. We go with the minority in that case because of the evidences that they supply, which is, firmer than the evidences that the majority, are upon. That happens once in a while in the field of fiqh. So, because the Deen, Al-Islam, is not a religion of numbers, rather it is a position, or it is a religion of evidences. So it is the group that presents the strongest of the evidences that are worthy, that is worthy of being followed, and that is what we go by. Now, so said there are evidences as follows, starting with the Quran. The vast majority quotes a general evidence. They say, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu. Allah says in the Quran, Surah Al-Baqarah, verse 267. Allah says, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu, anfiqu min tayyibati ma kasabtum. All those of you who have believed, spend min tayyibati ma kasabtum, from the good things that you have earned. Wa mimma akhrajna lakum min al-ard, and what we have extracted for you from the earth. So, min at-tayyibat ma kasabtum, the good things that you have earned. This is where the scholars put urud al-tijara. They say that this ayah of the Quran is telling you to pay zakah on every good thing that you have earned. And urud al-tijara, the items that you trade in, are part of the things that you have earned. And this is one of the statements of the Mufassirun on this. People like Imam Mujahid, a Tabeeb, says it is urud at-tijara. Now, the scholars who oppose this, they say, if you say that there's zakah on everything, the Prophet ﷺ told us in a hadith that if you have less than 5 camels, there's no zakah on you. If you have less than 10 dinar, there's no zakah on you. So you are now saying that there's zakah on these things. This is what you're saying. The majority respond, they say there's zakah on everything in one way or the other. There's no zakah on if you own less than 5 camels. La zakah fi ma duna khamsati dawdin min al-ibli sadaqa. Laysa fi ma duna khamsati dawdin min al-ibli sadaqa. There's no zakah on anything less than 5 camels. Yes, if we are looking at it from zakah on free range, non-working animals of the cow, camel, and sheep category of families. So the zakah on the free range, non-working animals of the camel, cow, and sheep category. There's ijma of the scholars on that. However, for the camel category, the nisab is 5 camels. Anything less than 5 camels, according to this hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, laysa fi maduna khamsati dawdin min al-ibli sadaqa. There is no zakah on what is less than 5 camels. Based on this hadith, if one owns less than 5 camels, there's no zakah in the category of placing zakah on these types of animals. However, if one owns less than 5 camels and one is trading in them, then one is not looking at them from the angle of paying zakat on them because they are camels, or because they are cows, then the nisab for that is 30, or because they are sheep, then the nisab for that is 40. One is not looking at them because of what they are by creation, but one is looking at them because of what one is using them for. Urud al-tijara, one is trading in them. So they will become zakatable because of this verse. Then this verse, though it is general, when you look at it from the aspect of what they are in creation, it will be specific in what you are using them for, urud al-tijara. This is the rebuttal of the majority for the minority. And the minority will say that we go back to saying that this is a general text. The Prophet ﷺ collected zakah, and he didn't collect zakah on things that were less than the nisab, on these items. And it goes back and forth. The vast majority tell them that go back to the explanation that we just gave, that these are urud al-tijara, not zakah placed on them. It's not a case of zakah being placed on them because of what they are in creation now. So this is the first evidence for that. The second evidence, عن سمرة ibn Jundub رضي الله عنه قال, said, Inna Rasulullah, this is a hadith. Now the other verses of the Quran that also say generally the same thing, like when Allah says, خُذْ مِنْ أَمْوَالِهِمْ صَدَقَةً, take from their wealth sadaqah. So their wealth is like mas kasabtum. So the wealth is anything that you own, whether currency or other than that. So the majority said this is another evidence. But because it speaks to the same thing as this, we'll skip it. If we are following the book of the Sheikh Sa'id ibn Wahf al-Qahtaani, we'll have gone through that. But it will take some time. And since they're saying the same thing, we'll skip that. So we'll go to the hadith. Samra ibn Jundub radiyallahu anhu says, Inna Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, that the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, kana ya'muruna, used to command us, an nukhrija as-sadaqata min alladhi nu'iddu lil-bay', that we should extract sadaqah. Sadaqah can be compulsory, can be in which case it will mean zakah, and can be voluntary, which will mean ordinary sadaqah. So in the Sharia, sadaqah is used for both. So it depends on the context. And in this context, it is talking about zakah. How do we know that? It says ya'muruna, used to command us. So your command is to that something is compulsory. So it tells us that this sadaqah is the compulsory one. The Prophet ﷺ used to command us to give zakah min alladhi nu'iddu lil-bay', from that which we are dedicated to bay', to trading. Rawahu Abu Dawud, is narrated by Abu Dawud. It was classed as being Hasan by Imam Ibn Abd al-Barr. However, Sheikh al-Albani said that it is da'if in his book Irwa al-Galil. وقال الحافظ في التلخيص, Al-Hafiz ibn Hajar al-Asqalani, he said in his book Al-Talkhis, fi-isnadihi jahala, in his chain of transmissions are unknown people. وقال النووي في المجموع, in his book Al-Majmu', Imam al-Nawawi says that في إسناده جماعة لا أعرف حالهم. In the chain of transmission are a group of people whose condition I do not know. Are they people who hadith can be accepted from or not? So the more correct opinion, therefore, is that this hadith is da'if. And this is what the minority say. They say this evidence that you bring forth is not an evidence that we can use on. It's da'if. It's da'if. So we are back to the verse of the Quran, which is in an angle general, in an angle specific. Allahu a'lam. So we are with that. So we'll go to the third. Rawa Daraqutni wal-Hakim an Abi Darda. Well, there's a hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam where Abu Darda said, سمعت رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم يقول, I heard the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wasallam saying, fi-l-Ibli sadaqatuha. In terms, with respect to camels, they have their own sadaqah. Wa fi-l-Ghanam sadaqatuha. Sheep and goats, they have their sadaqah. That is, sadaqah is upon them. The sadaqah for the nisab for ibl is 5 camels. For sheep and goats, it's 40. Wa fi-l-Baqarah sadaqatuha. For cows, the cow family, which covers cows, oxen, buffaloes, and all that, the nisab is 30, and they have their sadaqah. Wafil bazzi sadaqatuha. And baz also has its sadaqah. What is baz? Clothing. So this hadith will have been evidence because clothings, are urud. Clothings are urud, and there will have been evidence for that. However, the hadith, even though some scholars say that it's authentic, it's not la ba'sa bihi. Imam Al-Hafiz Ibn Hajar al-Asqalani says that there's no problem with this chain of transmission, and also Imam An-Nawawi in his book Al-Majmu' says that it is authentic. However, what is more correct is that it is da'if. Most of the scholars are of this opinion. If you follow this link, we'll see that the vast majority of scholars of hadith say that this hadith is da'if. Now, so again, the minority say, we told you just like the previous hadith, this thing is da'if. We cannot use it as evidence to make compulsory on people what Allah has not made compulsory on them. In their opinion, that Allah has not made or the tijara, zakat compulsory on the tijara. So let's go to the fourth. The fourth evidence, also hadith, in Bukhari and Muslim, عن أبي هريرة رضي الله عنه قال بعث رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم عمر على الصدقة. The Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم sent Umar bin al-Khattab رضي الله عنه to collect sadaqah, that is zakat, compulsory sadaqah. فقيل منع ابن جميل وخالد بن الوالد والعباس عم رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. So they went to collect sadaqah and they returned, and they reported to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. They collected sadaqah. However, Mana ibn Jamil, the following 3 people did not give us their sadaqah. They refused. They prevented us from taking sadaqah, their zakat. They are Ibn Jamil, Khalid bin Walid, and Al-Abbas, the uncle of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. فقال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم ما ينقم ابن جميل إلا أنه كان فقيرا فأغناه الله. Ibn Jamil is not retaliating against the Sharia for any reason other than Allah made him rich. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam made him rich, gave him wealth. And this is like eloquence, is that when you look at the reason why he has not given sadaqah, you will not find anything other than this, that Allah made him rich. Some people, they will say, if they're poor, so they say, if Allah gives me wealth, I'll pay sadaqah, I'll pay zakah, I'll build mosque, I'll build this, I'll build that, I'll do this, I'll make everybody in the town rich. But when Allah gives them what they ask for, they will not give any of that. You will ask them for zakah, they will not give. You ask them for voluntary sadaqah, they will not give. So what has made them not give? The money that Allah has given them. Rather than enabling them, they have it has made them stingy. It has made them stingy. وَعَمَّا خَالِدٍ فَإِنَّكُمْ تَظْلِمُونَ خَالِدًا. However, for Khalid, you people have wronged Khalid. قَدْ احْتَبَسَ أَدْرَعَهُ وَاعْتَادَهُ فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ. All the things that you saw in his possession, he has held them as a trust, as an endowment, fi sabilillah, for jihad. So they are not his property. He is just, they were before he converted them into a trust, for jihad, into an endowment for jihad. But now they are no longer, from the point, that he did that, they became that of Islam. It was just administering them, taking care, of them. So atad are things, anything, whether living or non-living, that you dedicate to war. So whether they are slaves, they are horses, they are, weapons, anything that can be used for the prosecution of war is called atad. So وَعَمَّ عَبَّاسِ فَهِيَ عَلَيَّ وَمِثْلُهَا مَعَهَا. As for Abbas, my uncle, as we looked at previously in another hadith, the Abbas radiallahu anhu had asked the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam if he could pay his zakah in advance. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam permitted him, and he paid 2 years in advance. He paid it to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So here, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam is telling Umar bin al-Khattab that the money is with me, the zakah is with me. I've collected it 2 years in advance. So you collect this year and the previous year and the following year from me. Now, so what is the evidence in this hadith? The evidence in this hadith is in the interaction and the comment of Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The interaction of Umar ibn Khattab with Khalid bin Walid and the response of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam to that case. Now, Umar ibn Khattab radiallahu anhu asked Khalid bin Walid for zakah from the things that he saw. They were urud, no doubt. But the urud, as we said at the very beginning, are of two types: urud al-qinya, personal effects, and urud that are not zakatable. Personal effects are not zakatable. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam has said, "Laysa ala Muslim fi abdihi wala farasihi sadaqa illa sadaqatu al-fitr." Sahih Muslim, hadith 982. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam has said that there's no zakah on a Muslim with respect to his slave that he owns. Yes, he bought the slave. It is his property. It is ard. However, it is ard al-qinya wala farasihi, in its horse. Yes, it is his property, but it is ard al-qinya illa sadaqatu al-fitr. But this slave or other people, this slave under him, he will pay zakat al-fitr for that slave at the end of Ramadan. So apart from this sadaqat al-fitr or zakat al-fitri, whichever, we told us sadaqah can mean both, and apart from this, there is no zakah on this. So because the abd, the slave, is a personal property for private use of the owner, and likewise the horse, the scholars say, since these are urud al-qinya, then all urud al-qinya, the same thing will apply to all urud al-qinya. All personal effects are not zakatable. So therefore, it is not, Umar ibn al-Khattab was not asking Khalid bin Walid to pay zakah on what Umar ibn al-Khattab thought was urud al-qinya, personal property of Khalid bin Walid. No. The only way he could have asked Khalid bin Walid to pay zakah on those things that he saw was that he thought that they were urud at-tijara. So the Prophet ﷺ said, no, they are not urud at-tijara. They are an endowment. That's Khalid bin Walid. They are neither urud at-tijara, they are neither urud al-qinya. They are an endowment for the Islamic State for jihad. He's only keeping them when they are needed. He will, release them to be used. So this is evidence for that. The minority, how do they rebut this? They say this is speculative. This is your understanding of why Umar ibn al-Khattab asked Khalid bin Walid for this, for zakah on these items. Yes, we agree the hadith is authentic. However, it's in Sahih Muslim, it's in Bukhari. However, you're basing evidence, you're extracting zakah of urud tijara from people. You're asking people to pay zakah on urud tijara because of your understanding of this hadith. We maintain that this hadith is speculative. In the text, there's nowhere in the text where urud tijara is mentioned. So this is where we begin to see the weakness in the position of the minority, because there's no other way you can interpret this request of Umar ibn Khattab, a scholar amongst the companions of Khalid ibn Walid, to pay zakah on what he had, what he saw with him. Now, so the fifth, وروى الشافعي وأحمد وعبد الرزاق. Imam Shafi'i, Imam Ahmad bin Hanbal, and Imam al-Razak in his Musannaf ibn al-Razak, Daraqutni, Imam al-Daraqutni, عن أبي عمرو ibn Himas عن أبيه أنه قال, that he said, كنت أبيع الأدم. He said, I used to sell leather products. فمر بي عمر بن الخطاب. Umar ibn al-Khattab, the one who was asking Khalid bin Walid for zakah, is involved in this. He said, Umar ibn al-Khattab, during Umar ibn al-Khattab's khilafah, asked him, passed by him and said, فَقَالَ لِي أَدِّي صَدَقَةَ مَالِكَ. Pay the zakat of your possession, on your possession, i.e. these trade goods that you're selling. فَقُلْتُ, I said to him, يَا أَمِيرَ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ, O leader of the Muslims, إِنَّمَا هُوَ fi udmi. This is just I'm trading in only leather products. فقال, i.e. he thought, since it's urud tijara, there's no zakah on it. فقال قومه ثم أخرج this should be أخرج ثم أخرج صدقته. Said, calculates the value of the leather products, then pay the zakah on it. Then pay zakah on it. وضعفه الألباني في إرواء الغليل لجهالة أبي عمرو الحماس ولكن يشهد له أثر الثاني. Imam Al-Albani graded this hadith as da'if. He's graded this hadith as da'if because there is jahala, ambiguity on about one of the narrators, Amr ibn Himas. He is unknown. So therefore, Sheikh Al-Bani graded this hadith as da'if. Okay. However, when a hadith is da'if, there are grades of being da'if. A hadith could be da'if because it was fabricated. That can never be used as evidence. A hadith could be da'if because it has a severe defect. That can also not be used as evidence. A hadith could be da'if because of a mild defect. Maybe one of such would be there were some of the scholars, they didn't have great memory skills with respect to preserving a hadith, but they documented the hadith in writing in books. So there was no doubt about the authenticity of those hadith. However, later on in life, something happened. Perhaps they were robbed. Some of them, if you read the books, they were robbed. Some, a fire happened and engulfed their property. In both cases, robbed or a fire or something happened. Their books, the books where they stored hadith in, where they documented hadith in, became lost to the event. So they had to rely on their memories. And their colleagues who had, sharp memory skills saw the defects in the hadith that they were reporting. That, you made a mistake here. You made a mistake there. So the hadith of such people after these events will be regarded as da'if. But this is not a fabrication. This is not, anything, severe. So this hadith will be da'if in and of itself. But if you have similar ahadith from similar people of similar status saying the same thing, then these ahadith, according to some of the scholars, including Sheikh Al-Albani, they will buttress each other, will support each other, and lift themselves as a community of hadith to become authentic, at least Hasan or Sahih li-ghayrihi, authentic due to evidence outside of itself. Sahih li-ghayrihi. So this hadith is one of those. That is Hasan, at least, or Sahih li-ghayrihi. And the hadith that comes after it buttresses that. It says, An Abdurrahman ibn Qari, it says, قال كنت على بيت المال. I was in charge of the Ministry of Finance of the Muslims. Zamana Umar bin al-Khattab, during the Khilafah of Umar bin al-Khattab. فكان إذا خرج العطاء, when Umar bin al-Khattab gathers all the revenue, جمع أموال التجار ثم حسبها, he will gather the revenue from the traders and value it. غائبها وشاهدها, their real assets and their debts. ثم أخذ الزكاة من شاهد المال عن الغائب, then he will collect zakah from the total of their present wealth, the real wealth that they have, plus their wealth, plus their debts. We are taking the topic previously a couple of times that in the Sharia, when you're paying zakah, there's a topic that are you to pay zakah on your debts that other people owe you, debts that other people owe you, that you loaned to people. Some of the most correct opinion of the scholars is that if you loaned it out to someone who does not dispute that you loaned it to him, and who will give it back to you whenever it is that you need, then this money is treated as if it was still with you, because you can access it whenever you want. Two things that are essential, that are conditions for paying of zakah, which is milk, your ownership of that property, and tasarruf, which is to be able to have jurisdiction over it whenever you wish, is still present with you, even though you have loaned the money to somebody else. And this is the case like when you put money in the bank. The bank is an entity other than you. You have put your money there. But whenever you want it, you can withdraw it. So you have milk and tasarruf. So if this is the case, then this is what Umar bin al-Khattab did. What he did was respect to a case like this. But if the one you loaned money to is someone that disputes which money, when did you give me money? You didn't give me any money. Or he owns up that, yes, you gave me money, but you see, I haven't even eaten today. It's Maghrib, I haven't eaten breakfast, I haven't eaten lunch. I don't have money to pay. Even if you sell me, you won't make up a tenth of how much I owe you. Please be patient. So, and you look at the situation and like, in 10 years, he won't be able to pay me my money back. Not that he doesn't want to pay. So, that case, you don't have milk of that money. You don't have ownership of that money. You don't have tasarruf over that money. Even the one who you loan doesn't have milk and tasarruf over that money. So there's no zakat to be paid on that money. That's bad debt. So back to the hadith. Said when Umar will gather the revenue from the traders and value it, and he will extract zakah from the total of the money that they owe and the money that was that they loaned out. And we said what most likely will be the case was that it's money that they could recall back anytime they wanted. So Sahahahu Ibn Hazm fi-l-Muharram. Ibn Hazm al-Andalusi, one of the scholars who holds a minority opinion, who holds the opinion that you don't pay zakah on urud al-tijara. He holds right, that this hadith is authentic. So how can you hold that this zakah is authentic and yet say that you are not to pay zakah on urud al-tijara? His position is slightly different from the position of Imam al-Albani. His position, Ibn Hazm al-Andalusi, is that there is a zakah that is compulsory for you to pay. That's the amount you have to pay out of it is not specified. It's left to your discretion. So he says that it is zakah. Sheikh al-Albani says it is not zakah. Yes, there's an amount that is compulsory for you to pay on money that you own or property that you own, and that is left to your discretion, but it is not zakah. We talked about the hadith that establishes this, that apart from sadaqah that is optional and zakah that is compulsory, there's a third given, a third expenditure from your wealth that Islam requires from you, and it is left to your discretion to pay what you want out of it. And the hadith is that where the Prophet ﷺ was talking about those that will be brought Yaum al-Qiyamah, and who didn't pay zakah. That hadith, long hadith, he said, وَمِنْ حَقِّهَا, out of the rights that is upon the recipients of zakah to collect from you of the camels that you own, halbuha yawma wirdiha, is for you to milk that camel when you take that camel to the riverside to drink. There are a certain number of days that the owners of camels will take their camels to the riverside to drink. So when they go there, they'll meet other people at the riverside. So the Sharia wants that they shouldn't just see the splendor of your camels. MashaAllah, see 1,000 camels, 5,000 camels. MashaAllah, MashaAllah. Don't fill their eyes alone. Fill their stomachs too. When you get to the riverside, the camels are replenishing their fluid. Milk the camels there and give it as sadaqah to the people. What volume should you give in sadaqah? How many liters? The Sharia didn't say. Just said, haqqiha, out of the rights, meaning compulsory. Halabuha yawma wirdiha. It's for you to milk that camel on the day it goes for drinking. So this is compulsory, but it is not zakah. And the amount to pay or the nisab, none of that is there. It's left to your discretion. So this is the position of Ibn Hazm on this hadith. That yes, it is authentic, but it doesn't establish. It's not for urud al-tijara. Rather, it is for what we have talked about, compulsory spending other than zakah on your wealth. Or in the case of Sheikh al-Albani, when the Sheikh of Ibn Hazm says it is zakah, that doesn't have nisab, that doesn't have amounts that you extract from that nisab. Now, number 7. So this hadith, when you look at it from the angle of the majority, of the vast majority of scholars, you see that it's stronger than the position of Ibn Hazm and Sheikh al-Albani and people who hold Dawud al-Zahiri and people who hold that position. Why? In this hadith, it was mentioned that Umar bin Khattab gathered the revenue from at-tujar, traders. Traders are people who deal in urud al-tijara. And you people who hold the minority opinion agree that this hadith is authentic. End of discussion. Add it to the ayah of the Quran before it, and fiqhu, spend min tayyibati ma kasabatum, from that which you have, from the good things that you have earned. You put them together and you see that they buttress one another, that there is zakat to be paid on urud at-tijara. Number 7, the hadith from Al-Bayhaqi, from Umar bin al-Khattab. He said, ليس في عروض zakah illa ma kana li tijara. Said there is no zakah on urud. You know, the urud are of two types, urud al-qanya and urud al-tijara. Said there's no zakah on urud except that which is dedicated to tijara. This is not a hadith. This is an athar from Umar ibn al-Khattab, the statement of Umar ibn al-Khattab. And of course, that is that is his position. That was his position when he went to Khalid bin Walid. That was his position when he told the man who was selling leather. So that is his this athar from him, states that. And Imam Ibn Hazm al-Andalusi also says that this is authentic, even though he holds a minority opinion. And part of the majority opinion holders, Imam al-Nawawi in Majmu' said that in his book al-Majmu' said. So all these hadith evidences said هذه الأدلة بمجموعها تدل على صحة الحكم. So all these hadith, when you pull them together, it tells you the position of the vast majority of the scholars is the position that is the stronger of the two positions. So when you now look at the evidences that are da'if and their weakness is mild, and you combine with the Quran and you combine with the ahadith and athar that even the minority hold that are authentic, then you see that urud al-tijara is something that zakah must be paid on. And when you look at qiyas, analogy, you will see that you pay zakah on urud al-tijara. And why is that? It is because anyone who is trading, he doesn't have any personal need for the things he's trading in. Somebody's selling cement, somebody's selling blocks, somebody's selling nails. He's not going to eat these things. He doesn't need them. He's only using them as excuse to grow that which there is ijma', that there is zakah on. And that is currency. Gold coins and silver coins being the foundation of currencies. So if any one of us if people generally could put their currencies under their pillow and they wake up in the morning and it has doubled or increased by a factor, nobody will go into trading and risk, falling into loss. No, just put it under your pillow and it will grow. But because that doesn't happen, then people choose the next best option, which is to risk that money. So they are the trade goods that they convert these monies into is like the fiat money that we spend today. Initially, the currencies the paper monies that we spend were representative money, meaning they were backed by either gold or silver. We explained that. So if you had if you had 10 dirham, it was backed by silver coins. So because they didn't want you to be carrying the silver coins around, they gave you a receipt in paper that you could tender anywhere. It was a legal tender. The same thing for that was backed by dinar, gold. You had gold stored with a central bank somewhere, and you had the receipt with you. So you're having the receipt with you. You're going to pay zakah on that receipt. So the same thing with someone who is converting his gold or his silver to urud al-tijara. It's just an excuse to grow it. If you could grow it in and of itself, you won't convert it to those things. So qiyas, by analogy, the zakah also on urud al-tijara. So we've established the zakah on urud al-tijara, trade goods, based on Quran, based on hadith, based on athar of the companions of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Umar ibn al-Khattab. It's also the position of his son Abdullah bin Umar, radiallahu anhuma, and qiyas, analogy. So all these tell us that there is zakat to be paid on urud at-tijara. There's zakat to be paid on urud at-tijara. Now, once we know that, what are the things that we need to take care of with respect to urud at-tijara? Or what are the things that must be present before we say that we can pay zakat on this specific urud at-tijara? We know that we're going to pay zakat on urud at-tijara. We just iron that out. The first thing is niyyah at-tijara. We mentioned that as part of our discussion. You must have the intention that you're going to use this as for trade before it becomes urud al-tijara. Otherwise, it will be urud al-qanya. To be urud al-qanya. And the evidence for that is إنما الأعمال بالنيات. إنما الأعمال بالنيات. Actions are nothing but by the intention on which they are based. So how we classify this urud based on the intention that you have for them. Personal effects, urud al-qanya. Trade, urud al-tijara. Urud al-tijara is the one that is subject to zakah. The next thing that we'll also look at before we can say that a specific set of urud al-tijara as zakatable is that an tablughu qimatu al-urud lil-tijara nisaban min aqali thamanain, is that when you value the urud al-tijara that you have with you, it must, or let's say should, because it's not haram for you to pay zakah when B is less than the nisab, to be sadaqah. Just like you can pay more than it is upon you in zakah. The excess will be sadaqah. That happened during the time of Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. You can also pay in advance, as Al-Abbas, the uncle of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, radiallahu anhu, did. So now, the Sheikh Rahimahullah says that the nisab is something that you look into, and that nisab, what is compulsory is that it should be the nisab of either gold or silver, thamanain. So gold and silver are called gold and silver, dhahab wal-fidda. Another name for them is naqdain, currencies. Another name from them is ayn. Is a thaman. So you have thaman. Both of them are called thamanain, the two thaman. Now, and they also called ayn also. Now, so qimatan idha balagha ahaduhuma nisab. So you go for the one that is least of the two, adna and nisabayn. So what happens traditionally over time, what has been happening is that the price of silver is lower than the price of gold. So because urud al-tijara is something that you convert gold into, it is also something that you convert silver into. So they are placeholders for the two metals, your gold currencies and your silver currencies. So because they are placeholders for both of them, you use the lesser of the two. So if the worth of your urud al-tijara is not up to the nisab of gold, which is 85 grams of gold in the market at the time that you do the evaluation, then you look to silver. You look to silver. If it is up to or above the nisab of silver, then you pay zakah on it based on that valuation. So you've met the threshold. So it's adna as nisabain, the one that is attained first out of the nisab of gold or silver. It is left open that way because There might be a time where silver will be more expensive than gold. All these things are factors of demand and supply. And demand is oftentimes shaped by people's, likeness for something. So give an example of one mango that they're selling at an exorbitant, unimaginable price. Mango, you just eat it and that's it. They're selling it, for I think thousands of dirhams. So that's people what they, demand now. So this is the second difference. Then the third is al-hawl. One lunar calendar must pass. One lunar calendar must pass. And the lunar calendar starts from when it reaches the nisab, when the value of your urud tijara reaches the nisab, and all other shurut, conditions for paying zakah are present there. Now, and the Sheikh Rahimahullah says, وَيُعْتَبَرْ وُجُودُ النِّصَابِ فِي جَمِيعِ الْحَوْلِ. This attainment of the nisab that we talked about presently must be present for the entirety of the lunar calendar that we are talking about, or just talking about now. I.e., if you value your urud tijara and it meets the nisab of either gold or silver, if it meets the nisab of either gold or silver and it drops below that nisab during that year, then you stop your calculation of the hawl. If it drops from, let's say you use the nisab of gold, and it drops from the nisab of gold, but still above or at the nisab of silver, then it's not truncated. It's not truncated. If, however, it goes below the nisab of silver, then it's truncated. And you wait until the value reaches the lesser of the two metals, the nisab of the lesser of the two metals, and you start counting again. So maybe in Muharram, it dipped below, you attained the nisab. Then in Safar, it dipped below, so it's truncated. Then in Ramadan, the value of your urud tijara went up again to reach the nisab. Then you start counting from Ramadan again. So if it doesn't dip, below the nisab, then you have to pay by the last day of Sha'ban in the following year. If you attain the nisab from the first day of Ramadan this year, then it means by the last day of Sha'ban in the following year, you're going to pay zakah on that urud at-tijara. Now, so inshallah, we'll stop here. We'll continue with the conditions that we'll look at with urud al-tijara. And if we conclude that next week, then we'll go to the next topic, which will be shares that one owns in companies. Al-aswam, shares, different people own, shares in different, entities, Salik, things like that. So if you own those shares, how are you going to, are they zakatable? If they're zakatable, how are you going to pay zakat on them and things like this? So inshallah, we'll stop here today. Do we have any question? Any question? Okay. Tafaddal, Abu Rahman.
No question.
Okay.
Okay.
I have a question.
Okay, please go
Now,
ahead.
my question has to do with when you talked about if we have some herds of camels,
No.
and you take them to a pond, a pond to have some water, and you have people that you need to give sadaqah for those for those goods of yours. Now, does it apply to if you have, let's say you are a car trader and you have like 2-3 cars that you took to, let's say maybe an auction? I mean, do you do the same thing? You want to auction those cars, you know, and people identify that, look, this is the owner of these cars that have been brought for auction. Do you still need to give, does it apply?
No, Barakallahu fikum, Barakallahu fikum. It applies to all types of wealth that one owns, such that if you take your car to auction or you even sell it privately to somebody and you get, you know, money out of it, thank Allah, give people something out of it, even if it's 100 dirhams, 50 dirhams, just give something out of it.
Okay.
As, you know, appreciation to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and out of fear of falling into someone who has not you know, spent something that something out of what Allah has given him. And it is not only in terms of wealth of physical assets, also in terms of capacities that we have. If you remember the hadith where Yaum al-Qiyamah, Allah will say that he was sick, and you tell a slave that he was sick and that slave did not come to visit him. And you say, oh Allah, how could you be sick? You're the Lord of the world. And you say, a slave of mine was sick and you didn't go to pay him a visit. So you have the capacity of going to the hospital to pay people visits, spend out of that time, spend out of that capacity. So with this mindset, a Muslim knows that every single thing that he has knowledge. Spend out of that knowledge. When we're in school, we had a classmate who, if he had any question, you know, paper, past question paper or something like that, he will hoard it. He will not let anybody. It's question paper. You know, if you share with people, you will even gain out of it because everybody will solve it. What you think you knew, you know, or you know about it, you know, you might gain knowledge from other people. But let us even say you won't gain, you know, the knowledge from other people. You got this past question that people didn't have access to it. Spend out of it, give it to them. Somebody looking at the past questions does not mean that he's going to pass that the questions that he looked at. He knows it after looking at it now, doesn't mean he will remember it in the under the pressures of the exam, you know, hall or anything like that. So the mindset of the Muslim is that whatever you have, give people something out of it. Allah has been merciful to you by not specifying the quantity that you will give out. Just give something out of it. And when you're giving out, the only thing Allah says is, وَلَا تَيَمَّمُوا الْخَبِيثَ مِنْهُ تُنْفِقُونَ وَلَسْتُمْ بِآخِذِيهِ إِلَّا أَن تُغْمِضُوا فِيهِ. Don't spend that which, if the tables were turned and that was given to you, you wouldn't take it except that you will close your eyes and take it. What will we do? We shall have to eat something. We'll take it like that. But if you had an option, you will never take it. You're only taking it because you don't have an option. Don't spend that kind of thing out of it. Anything above that, that is mu'tabar, that is significant, that the person that you want to spend it out on. So for instance, 50 dirhams, you give it to somebody, he will make dua for you, you know, till you might be on the verge of cursing you out of deep appreciation for what you have given. But you can't give that 50 dirhams to, you know, something like someone like Abu Abdurrahman, for instance. You know, it might be an insult. You know, so you give something that is mu'tabar to the person that you want to, you know, give to, and that is okay. Now, barakallahu fikum. So, inshallah, same time next week if Allah spares our lives until then and gives us the opportunity. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
وعليكم السلام
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته. جزاكم الله خيرا.
وإياكم.